If someone told you the reason why you die is your arteries fill up with cholesterol, they are lying to you. Over 80% of heart attacks and strokes are not plaque, cholesterol, or calcium that's blocking your arteries. Most of the time, when someone has a heart attack or a stroke, they die from...
Welcome back to the Health Conscious Lifestyle Podcast. Today we are going to do a deep dive into something that you might find pretty surprising. The truth about heart attacks.
You got it. We're going way beyond just cholesterol today.
Okay. Most heart attacks aren't just from cholesterol buildup. It's blood clots. They're the real culprit.
Yeah, over 80% of heart attacks and strokes are actually caused by these tiny clots that block the blood flow to the heart.
Wow.
And what's even more shocking is that these clots can actually form incredibly fast, like in as little as 5 seconds.
5 seconds. That is so fast. So walk us through this a little bit. What exactly are blood clots and why do they form in the first place?
Well, you can kind of think of a blood clot as your body's natural Band-Aid. So like when you get a cut, your blood clots to stop the bleeding, right? So ideally, your body then repairs the damage and then dissolves the clot.
So the clotting itself is not really the issue. It's when things go wrong with that process.
Exactly. Problems happen when clots form when they're not needed or they don't dissolve properly. That's when they can become a huge threat to your heart.
And our sources point to some surprising things that can actually trigger this unhealthy clotting, things that we might not immediately connect with heart health.
Right. For example, smoking. Whether it's cigarettes or vaping, all those chemicals in the smoke damage your blood vessels and trigger inflammation, and that's a major factor in clot formation.
So basically, smoking kind of sets the stage for these dangerous clots to form.
Precisely.
Okay.
Now let's talk about another culprit. Too much alcohol. Excess alcohol acts like a poison to your liver and bloodstream and ends up harming your arteries and making you more susceptible to clotting.
Okay, so smoking and too much alcohol are out. What about stress? Because our sources really emphasize that strong connection between stress and heart attacks.
Yeah, it's a really powerful link. I mean, just imagine the stress of losing a loved one. Studies show that this kind of intense stress can increase your risk of a heart attack by up to 2,000%. Stress just triggers this whole cascade of reactions in your body, including changes in blood clotting that makes you much more vulnerable.
Wow, 2,000%. That's a huge reminder of how important stress management is.
Yeah.
What other kind of unexpected culprits do we need to be aware of?
That's one might surprise you. Sugar. A diet that's high in sugar actually makes your blood thicker and stickier, which increases that risk of those clots forming.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you add syrup to water, it's not going to flow as smoothly.
That makes total sense. You know, we often hear about fat being bad for the heart, but sugar seems to be a major player as well.
Absolutely. And here's another one that's often misunderstood. Calcium. While calcium is essential for strong bones, if you have too much calcium in your blood, often from taking too many supplements, it can actually increase your risk of clotting.
So it's really about balance, right? Getting enough calcium from food, but being careful with supplements. Okay.
And finally, we have a culprit that's not a substance, but a deficiency.
Oh.
Lack of sunlight.
Now that is interesting. What is the connection between sunlight and heart health?
Well, sunlight is crucial for your body to produce nitric oxide, a compound that helps your blood vessels to relax and widen, which allows for better blood flow. But when you don't get enough sunlight, nitric oxide production dips, and that can increase the risk of those dangerous clots forming.
So we've got smoking, too much alcohol, stress, sugar, and a lack of sunlight, all contributing to an increased risk of blood clots and ultimately heart attacks. It's kind of amazing how these seemingly unrelated things can have such a huge impact on our heart health.
It is a complex interplay of different factors, but understanding these connections really empowers us to take control.
Absolutely. But, knowing what to avoid is only half the battle, right?
Yeah.
So what are some actionable steps that we can actually take to prevent these clots and protect our hearts?
Well, that's where it gets really empowering. There are so many things that you can do, starting with your diet.
Okay, let's dive into those strategies. What kind of diet changes can people make that will actually make a difference?
Well, one key thing is to embrace foods that are rich in vitamins, K2, and magnesium. Both of those play a role in keeping your heart healthy. Think dairy, butter, leafy greens, even healthy fats.
Wait, healthy fats. I thought we were supposed to avoid fat for a healthy heart.
That's a common misconception.
Okay.
Healthy fats like those found in avocados, nuts, olive oil are actually good for your heart and can even help to regulate your cholesterol levels.
Okay.
It's the artificial trans fats that you find in a lot of processed foods that you need to steer clear of.
Interesting. So healthy fats are in, but what about sugar? We talked about how excess sugar can be a problem.
Yeah, limiting refined starches and sugar is really important. Those simple carbs contribute to inflammation and they can thicken your blood, making it easier for clots to form.
So it's really about making smarter choices right. Choosing whole grains over refined grains, opting for fruit instead of candy, and reading labels to look out for added sugars.
Exactly. Small changes like that can add up to a big difference over time.
I like it.
Now let's go back to sunlight. We know it's important for nitric oxide production, but how can we safely get enough?
That's a good question. Especially with all the concerns about skin damage. What's the safe way to get enough sunlight?
Well, safe sun exposure is key. We don't want to overdo it and risk sunburn, but getting a moderate amount of sun each day without sunscreen can do wonders for your heart and your overall well-being.
Okay.
And then there's stress. We all have it, but as we've seen, chronic stress can be a major heart health risk. So how can we manage that effectively?
Right.
Well, finding healthy ways to cope with stress is so important, whether that's exercise, meditation, spending time in nature, or doing hobbies that you love. The key is to find what works for you and make it a regular part of your routine.
So we've got diet, sunlight, and stress management. Are there other things that we can do to kind of directly support healthy blood flow and prevent those clots?
Absolutely. Nature has given us some amazing allies in the form of natural blood thinners.
I am all ears. What are some examples of these natural blood thinners?
Foods like garlic, onions, and fish contain compounds that can actually naturally prevent excessive clotting. For instance, garlic is rich in sulfur compounds that have blood thinning effects, and onions contain quercetin, an antioxidant that can also help to thin the blood.
So adding these foods to our meals can actually give us some extra protection. What about supplements? Are there any natural supplements that can help?
There are a few that have shown some real promise, things like nattokinase, serrapeptase, and bromelain. Nattokinase, which is derived from fermented soybeans, helps to break down fibrin, which is a protein that's involved in clot formation. Serrapeptase, which comes from silkworms, also helps to break down fibrin and it reduces inflammation. And bromelain, which is found in pineapple, has anti-inflammatory properties that can benefit heart health. However, it's always best to check with your doctor before starting any new supplements.
That's a great point. Supplements can be powerful, but using them safely and appropriately is key. What about exercise? We all know it's important, but what type of exercise is best for a healthy heart?
Moderate exercise that you do consistently, combined with a proper recovery, is really key for a healthy heart. This could be things like brisk walking, swimming, cycling, or any activity that really gets your heart rate up without overstressing your body. The key is consistency. Even small amounts of daily exercise can make a big difference.
Consistency over intensity. Got it. Now, we've heard a lot about intermittent fasting and its potential health benefits. Does it play a role in heart health as well?
Intermittent fasting is definitely something worth looking into. It's been shown to actually reduce inflammation, which, as we've discussed, is a key contributor to blood clots. And it can also help improve your insulin sensitivity, which is another factor in heart health.
Wow, we have covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. From understanding that blood clots, not just cholesterol, are the main cause of heart attacks, to exploring all these different prevention strategies, this has been super insightful.
It has been a fascinating journey, and it really highlights the fact that we have so much more control over our heart health than we might think.
Absolutely. We'll be right back after a quick sub.
We'll pick right back up after a quick moment to wrap up this deep dive with some final thoughts and key takeaways. Stay tuned.
So as we've been learning, it's really blood clots, not just cholesterol, that are the main things behind most heart attacks.
Yeah, that's a big surprise for a lot of people, right? It really kind of changes how we think about heart health.
It totally does. It means that we need to be thinking about way more than just our cholesterol numbers.
Yeah.
It's more about a whole lifestyle approach to keeping our blood flowing well and preventing those clots from forming.
Yeah, exactly. We've covered a lot today, but let's try and narrow it down to some key takeaways for our listener.
Perfect. Let's recap what we've learned and empower our listeners to take action.
Okay. So, first and foremost, just remember that blood clots are the main cause of most heart attacks. They can form super fast and without any warning, so prevention is really important.
And that prevention starts with understanding all those surprising things that can actually cause those clots, like smoking, too much alcohol, chronic stress, a diet high in sugar, and even not getting enough sunlight. All of that can increase your risk.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating how these everyday things can have such a big impact on our hearts and blood vessels.
It really is. But the good news is that we have the power to change these habits and make choices that are good for our hearts.
For sure. We talked about eating a heart-healthy diet with lots of vitamins K2 and magnesium foods like dairy, butter, leafy greens, and healthy fats.
And don't forget those natural blood thinners we talked about: garlic, onions, and fish.
Right. And we can't forget about safe sun exposure for boosting nitric oxide, which keeps those blood vessels relaxed and open.
And what about stress management? We know that chronic stress is really bad for our hearts, so how can we manage that effectively?
Right. Finding healthy ways to deal with stress is really key, whether that's exercise, meditation, spending time in nature, or doing things you enjoy. Finding what works for you and making it a regular part of your routine is super important.
So I've got diet, sunlight, stress management. Are there any other things we can do to support good blood flow and prevent those clots?
Absolutely. We can try intermittent fasting.
Oh yeah, right.
It's been shown to actually help reduce inflammation, which we know is a big contributor to blood clots. And it can also help improve insulin sensitivity, which is another important factor in heart health.
And of course, there's exercise.
Yeah, moderate exercise that you do regularly is really important for a healthy heart.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be super intense, but it does need to be regular. Even a brisk walk every day can make a big difference.
This deep dive has really shown us how much control we actually have over our heart health. It's not all about genetics or luck. The choices we make each day really matter.
It's so empowering, right? To realize that we can take steps to protect our hearts and lower our risk of heart attacks. It's never too late to start making those changes.
I totally agree. Every small step we take toward a healthier lifestyle is a step towards a stronger and healthier heart.
So, to our listeners, we encourage you to take this information and make it work for you. Make those heart-healthy changes in your diet. Find ways to manage your stress. Get outside and get some sunshine, and find something you enjoy doing to get moving.
Your heart will definitely thank you.
We've covered so much today, but we want to leave you with one final thought to think about.
Research shows that a healthy lifestyle can really lower your risk of having a heart attack. The power to protect your heart is in your hands.
It's really empowering to know that we can actually take charge of our heart health. We don't just have to wait and see what happens. We can make choices that actually protect our hearts.
I agree. We really do have the power to shape our own heart health, and it's never too late to get started.
Exactly. So to all of our awesome listeners out there, we really encourage you to take all of this info and use it. Make those heart-healthy changes. Try to manage your stress. Get outside and get a little bit of sunshine and find some fun ways to get moving.
Yeah, those simple changes can really make a big difference over time. It's all about building those healthy habits that'll last.
If you like this deep dive into heart attacks and learned something new, make sure you subscribe to the Health Conscious Lifestyle podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. We are here to help you on your journey towards a healthier and happier you.
And don't forget to share this episode with your friends and family. Spreading the word about heart health could even help save a life.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep those hearts healthy.